10 out of 10 Best Horror in the Pacific Northwest. Horror Northwest Magazine. Not for the faint of heart. Silas Woods is the pinnacle of horror. Connor McIntosh, creator of Zombglass. Something about it felt so real. HNS Insider. Melanie read the reviews for the newest scare park that was taking the Multnomah County area by storm aloud, as if trying to convince me to go. I don't know why she felt the need to do so. I had gone to every frightening event that she had ever talked about. I loved the thrill almost as much as she did. Mel. I stopped her from reading the next part of the article mid-sentence. Let's do it next weekend. I turned around to face her after sliding on my favorite silver necklace. Damn, you look sexy. Mel shot up and looked me twice over. I had a date tonight, and although I certainly didn't feel sexy, I seized the opportunity to put on a dress I had purchased a year ago and never had the chance to wear. A tight-fitting pale yellow with a floral design stretching down the side, matched with heels and hoop earrings. I take it back, I do feel sexy, and I'm going to slay this date. Message received 9:03 p.m. Hey Han, I'm really sorry but something urgent came up. I'm not going to be able to make it tonight. Rain check for tomorrow? The look on my face must have been pretty obvious, because when I looked up from my phone, Mel looked even more furious than I was disappointed. Oh no, he's not bailing on you again. She started, her voice rising with every no. I didn't even say, you don't have to, Hannah. I've been your best friend for nearly our whole lives. Listen, we are going to... Her eyes lit up as she came up with an idea. I hate that look. It always ends in us in a situation I would rather not be in. Mel began excitedly pointing at her phone, turning it around for me to see the time. We have 2 minutes, swap into some flats. We are making it to Silas's tonight. The feeling of rejection and submitting to sitting in my room another night alone was immediately replaced by a childlike excitement. I quickly did as my best friend had suggested, and swapped my heels for a pair of black running shoes, which I decided were a better choice than flats. I wanted to change into more casual clothes as well, but we had to run right away if we wanted to catch the bus in time, without waiting another 30 minutes. We managed to catch it right on time, and 20 minutes later we're arriving at the park entrance. It was a sight to behold, held just outside of the Portland city limits. Silas's Woods was crafted out of the environment itself. There were hardly any signs and lights that would normally be seen around the start of a theme park, but rather everything was dimly lit, and a low orchestra type music was being played through the hidden speakers all throughout the trees leading to the main gate. A stark contrast to the nerdy looking boy who was working the ticket booth, which had been nothing more than a hole cut into a rather large tree. He smiled, gave us our tickets, and went back to playing what looked like Fruit Ninja on the company iPad. Okay, I say screw saving the best for last. Let's do the haunted walk first, yeah? Mel spoke excitedly. I nodded and we made our way through the trails to the entrance, where there was a ridiculously long line. I mean, like a 2-hour long wait. Well, good thing we went here first. By the time we get in, the park will be closed. I rumbled, annoyed. Why did parks like these never seem to have lines that were manageable? Mel agreed, but seemed content to just sit around and wait, so we did. We ran through just about every conversation topic we could think of. ranging from how much of an ass Dan was being by canceling on me tonight, to Mel's nervous excitement about being the lead in the school's play that was set to start practice in 2 weeks. As we got closer, we started gauging the looks on the people who were leaving the park's faces, to see if everything that was in those walls really lived up to the hype. Some looked scared out of their minds, some were nervously laughing, and some showed no expression at all. Overall though, it seemed like more people were genuinely afraid. That was good. One thing I was beginning to notice, however, was that there seemed to be less people coming out than going in. At first, I struck it up to people getting lost in the maze, or me just not paying attention to when people were coming out. But as we got closer, it began to be more noticeable. Hey, does it seem to you that less people are coming out than going in? I asked Mel. She shot me a sly glance and a smile. Don't try to scare me, Han. It's not going to work. No, I'm serious. I think... I was cut off by the attendant asking for our tickets, and quickly ushering us inside. Well, I guess it's too late to back out now. I must admit, I felt a little more anxious than I normally do. But maybe that's why this particular park is rated so high. Good on them. As soon as you walk inside the area designated for the attraction, you are confronted with the option to go right, which leads you to a building that is flashing with all sorts of lights and colors, or going left into what looks like a cornfield-style maze. I motion left, and Melanie starts that way. We work our way around the sounds of distant screaming, and the loud banging of hands on loose metal, and of course the revving of chainsaws fills the air. My nerves are on end as we creep through the hedges and stalks of corn. I can feel one of them stalking us, trying to keep quiet until the perfect moment to jump out and get us. The problem is, I don't know where he is watching from. It could be literally any direction. Finally, as we are about to leave the open field and into what looks like a burned down barn, with similar flashing lights to the original building if we had turned right, the stranger in the dark scares us. Well, he scares Mel. I was about 2 feet behind her in a narrow hallway that only allowed one of us to go at a time, when he springs through the bushes, emerging between the two of us, and grabbing her shoulder before screaming in her face as she turned around. Hey, you're not allowed to touch me! Mel screams as she frantically backs away, after which the actor sprints back off into the hedges, giggling maniacally all the way. I hate when they do that. I can't help but laugh. I know deep down she was loving it, but she doesn't want to act like she actually got scared. I smile at her and beckon for her to go through the door in front of us. No, screw that, you lead this time. Mel put her head down, muttering under her breath about how she's going to tell the man's boss he touched her. I roll my eyes and push forward, feeling a little better than I had before. The inside of the barn was made to feel very cramped and claustrophobic. Every hallway required you to squeeze by a rag doll or a stuffed pig carcass, or something equally as disgusting. Mirrors lined the walls, showing rooms where unlucky patients were getting tortured or beaten. It felt extremely real, terrifyingly real. The sense of security I felt after Melanie had gotten jumped and not myself had vanished almost instantly. As we walked, the sound of metal scraping metal followed us. I grabbed Melanie's hand as we navigated the corridors, and screeched along with her as a man in a painting came alive and screamed at us. The rooms where visitors were being tortured were getting worse, the screams becoming more bloody the further we went. I rounded a corner and immediately fell back onto my back as a man with a chainsaw stood waiting for me, turning it on and lunging at me with dramatic effect. I let go of Melanie's hand for just a moment to brace my fall, and when I turned back to find her, she was gone. "Melanie?" I yelled, panic welling up in my throat. "Mel, this isn't funny." I don't know where she could have been hiding, or why she felt like now was the best time to prank me, but she was going to get a firm scolding from me as soon as I could breathe on my own again. "Hannah, help me!" I heard her cry for help, and in that instant, I knew something was wrong. Melanie didn't scare easily, so the fact that they got one over on her earlier would normally have put her on shutdown mode. But this was her screaming for her life. I turned to look at the man with the chainsaw, but he was gone. Raising to my feet, I sprinted in the direction of Melanie's voice. Somehow she had gotten ahead of me. I pushed past the junk hanging from the ceiling and completely ignored the rooms to the side, solely focused on finding my friend. "Hannah!" She screamed again, but this time it was behind me once more. How? There was only one path. I turned back around, and at this point, began to wonder where the next people in line were. Shouldn't they be following behind us soon? Maybe they could help us. A sickening thud shook my head to the left as a body slammed up against the window to one of the torture rooms. My heart dropped. Inside, I saw Mel, and she was being dragged backwards and tied down onto the table in the middle of the room. Her screams no longer audible as a rag was shoved into her mouth. Her eyes panicked, looking directly at me the whole time. I was frozen. I didn't know what to do. It didn't matter. Moments after she was tied down, the person in the room with her looked at me and smiled a bloody smile before jamming a twisted blade into her gut. I screamed, and I hated to admit it, but I ran. I wish I could say that I knew there was no hope for her, and I left knowing there was nothing I could do. But I was only saving myself. I was too terrified to do anything else. I managed to slip into a side room that I found. It's definitely one of the torture rooms, but there is no one here and all the lights are out. I called the police about an hour ago, and they should have shown up by now. But I can still hear the screams out there. When I called the operator back, they could only tell me that 2 squads had been sent out, and that they would stay on the line with me until they got there. I was nervous that my voice would cause someone to find me though, so I hung up. I'm typing this out, huddled in the corner of a room that could very well be my grave. If anyone is near, please help me. I don't know how long I'll make it here, and I think I hear footsteps.